Picture waking up before sunrise on a straw mattress in a room so dark you can't see your own hand. There's no glass in the window, just a stretched sheet of oiled linen, and it does almost nothing against the January cold. Somewhere below you, 50 other people are already awake and moving, and if you're slow, you go hungry. There's no knight in shining armor here, no fairy tale princess waiting in a tower. This is what a single day actually looked like for the people who lived, worked, and sometimes died inside the stone walls of a medieval castle in the year 1400. We've taken surviving engravings, illuminated manuscripts, and architectural records from this exact period and used AI reconstruction to rebuild them into lifelike scenes, so you can see, as closely as anyone alive today can, what these people actually saw when they opened their eyes each morning. By the end of this video, you'll understand why castle life had far less in common with a fairy tale and far more in common with running a small, cold, dangerous town where everyone had a job and almost nobody had a say in their own future. Let's step inside. England, 1400. Richard II has just been deposed and quietly killed. Henry IV sits on a throne he can't fully trust. And in Wales, a nobleman named Owain Glyndwr is about to rise in revolt against English rule. A castle in this period isn't a museum piece. It's a working headquarters, and everyone inside it has a role to play in keeping it running and keeping it defended. The day starts before the sun does. Bells or a horn call the household to the first prayers of the day, and the lowest ranked servants are already up. In summer, they start around 5:30 in the morning, and in winter, not much later, because the animals don't care what the weather's like. Someone has to feed the horses, someone has to get the kitchen fires going, someone has to haul water up from the well. A large castle can house anywhere from 30 to over 150 people, and almost none of them are related to the lord by blood. It runs more like a company than a family. At the top sits the lord and lady. Below them, the steward manages the finances and the estate. The marshal runs the stables and enforces discipline, and the chamberlain looks after the lord's private quarters. Underneath all of them is a small army of cooks, laundresses, grooms, blacksmiths, and stable hands, plus the men-at-arms who actually defend the place if it comes to that. If you're born into this world as a servant, your life is mapped out early. Boys from poorer families might end up in the kitchen or the stables. Boys from wealthier families are sent to serve as pages, which sounds like a punishment but is closer to what we'd call boarding school. They learn manners, weapons, and how a noble household actually functions, with the expectation that they'll eventually become squires and then knights themselves. By mid-morning, the kitchen is already the loudest, hottest room in the castle. A big castle needs to feed dozens, sometimes over 100 mouths every single day, and that means constant work. The cook runs the kitchen like a military operation, shouting orders to undercooks and the scullions underneath them, who are usually boys stuck with the worst jobs in the building, scrubbing pots and turning the spit in front of an open fire for hours at a time. Food tells you exactly where you stand. At the high table, the lord and his guests eat fine white wheat bread, roasted meat, and imported spices that cost more than most servants will ever earn. Down at the other end of the hall, servants eat coarser bread made from barley, oats, or beans, and get whatever's left of the meat once the household's been served. Nobody in the castle is starving in normal times, but the gap between what the lord eats and what the stable boy eats is enormous, and everyone can see it, every single meal. Water isn't something anyone trusts to drink on its own, so ale is the everyday drink for almost the entire household, adults and children included.
It's weaker than what we'd call beer today, brewed fresh and often, and it's really more of a safe, calorie-rich staple than anything else.
Tasty.
Yes, it is.
Hygiene is one of the areas where people tend to imagine the Middle Ages as filthier than they actually were. Castles have garderobes, small stone toilets built into the walls that drop waste straight down the outside, sometimes into the moat, sometimes into a pit that has to be emptied by hand. That job falls to someone called a gong farmer, and it is exactly as unpleasant as it sounds. People do wash regularly, using basins and cloths, and wealthier households even have proper baths heated by the fire. But there's no sewage system in the modern sense, no soap as we'd recognize it, and no understanding of germs. Disease still spreads easily, especially in winter when everyone is crowded together near the same fires for warmth. That warmth comes at a cost too. Fireplaces and open flames heat the castle, but they also fill rooms with smoke, and stone walls hold on to cold far better than they hold on to heat. Even the lord's private chambers can be uncomfortably cold in deep winter, and for the servants sleeping in shared attics or cellars, a warm room is something you fight other people for space in, not something you take for granted. Most servants work from roughly dawn until 7 in the evening, 6 days a week, with very little time off and low pay, sometimes paid daily rather than by the year, which means the lowest ranked staff can lose their job the moment the lord decides to travel somewhere else. It's physically hard work, and the discipline is strict. Mistakes, especially around food, fire, or the lord's belongings, are punished harshly. At the same time, this isn't a life without any dignity or comfort. Servants get regular meals, a uniform in the lord's colors, and for the more skilled and trusted staff, real job security, and even land as a reward for years of loyal service.
As the light starts to fade, the mood in the great hall shifts. This is where the household eats its main meal together and where entertainment happens. Jugglers, musicians, sometimes a jester employed full-time by the lord, someone whose actual job is to tell uncomfortable truths in a way that makes people laugh instead of getting him executed for it. But underneath the food and the music, defense is never far from anyone's mind in 1400. This is a country that has just gone through a change of king by force, and a rebellion is starting in Wales. The men-at-arms patrol the walls, the gatehouse is guarded day and night, and the portcullis is lowered as darkness falls. In peacetime, a small castle might only have a handful of soldiers on duty. In wartime, that number can multiply overnight, and every corridor, storeroom, and stable becomes crowded with extra bodies to feed and extra mouths to worry about. Gunpowder weapons exist by 1400, but they're still primitive and unreliable, so the old defenses, thick walls, murder holes, arrow loops built for longbows and crossbows, are still the backbone of how a castle protects the people inside it. Within a few decades, cannon fire will start to make stone walls like these obsolete. But right now, in this exact year, the people living here still trust those walls with their lives, because for the most part, those walls have earned that trust. By the time full night falls, most of the household is asleep, packed into shared rooms, wrapped in whatever blankets they own, listening to the wind outside stone that's a meter thick in places. Tomorrow, the bells will ring again before sunrise, and almost everyone here will get up and do this exact same day all over again, for years, sometimes for their entire lives. So that's a single day in an English castle in 1400. Not the version with knights riding off into the sunset, but the real one. Hierarchy at every level. Hard labor from before dawn until well after dark. Food that told you exactly where you stood. And walls that had to protect a kingdom still shaking from a stolen throne and a rebellion just getting started in Wales.
I'm Malik Van Dyke, and this has been the Sediment Files. If this kind of history hits different when you can actually see it instead of just reading about it, that's exactly why we make these. Now I want to hear from you.
Would you have survived a day as a castle servant in 1400? Or do you think you'd have lasted about an hour?
Tell me in the comments. And if you disagree with anything in this video, I genuinely want to hear it down there too. If you enjoyed this, hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.